Well, howdy, I'm John Mark Dempsey, and here with us is our friend Mario Villarino.
Thank you for having me again.
Who is the Hopkins County AgriLife Extension Agent. You put out a news release recently about honeybees.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of people actually. I was just mentioning to you that today I got a couple of phone calls about the swarming of beehives, honeybee hives.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, when the weather gets a little beneficial and the temperature drops, bees start looking for other places to colonize and causing what is called swarming. So basically, a colony will split from the normal side, wherever they are, and they're looking for a new place to live, and actually get split in a little cluster of bees, trying to find a queen or a drone that actually is the male. The male of the honeybee is called a drone, that actually allowed to have another nuclei. And during that process of seeking and finding, people run into them, into their houses and their trees and so on. So
right.
We get a lot of phone calls of people trying to find a way to, I guess, cohabit with them in a positive way, because we know that honeybees are good for the environment.
Sure.
They're just trying to find the right way to do it.
Well, and there was a story recently out in Eastland County in West Texas. A man was killed.
Oh, really?
He was out mowing and disturbed a hive that he apparently didn't know was there, and they they swarmed him, and that's a frightening story, and that doesn't happen very often, but still, they can be a threat. Your news release recently said that a big problem is they will inhabit a building.
They do, because they really don't have a sensory way to identify what is good and what is bad for them to be, sure. and they find a wet spot somewhere, a hole somewhere in the house or something, and they start colonizing. And that's where the problem comes in with the households. If they get inside, because they can be maybe one single bee, not too big, but when you have hundreds of them, it's a big mass and it's a big mess.
And when I say building, I'm thinking of a barn or some kind of outbuilding, but I have heard of them getting into homes.
They do. They get into it, basically they're desperate to find a cavity. And even small holes in houses can be enough for them to start looking for them.
And then you really have a problem.
And that's when it gets complicated. If they, for some reason, they feel welcome in that site and people cannot neglect them and don't do anything about it, they can be there for days or so on and be a colony there inside.
But you made kind of touched on that. You might not realize that they're there right away.
You don't, because usually they're coming in and out during certain times of the day. So they don't necessarily mean there's a lot of traffic. They're just inside of that void that all the houses have.
Right.
They start doing their normal process of combs and splits and so on. And when you realize you have a big group of unwelcome friends there in your house.
But you said you've actually had a few calls about this.
Even today, as we speak, I had three swarms that they've been trying to find a new home.
Mercy.
For people. And just like you mentioned, if you're sensitive to the poison of the bee, it can be fatal if you're not careful.
Boy, yeah. So AgriLife recommends that you get a professional beekeeper.
Absolutely. The first thing you do is to find somebody who knows how to handle them. It's something that normal people without the expertise, we do not recommend getting into that. You have to buy equipment and learn how to fog them and how to maintain them tame so you can actually harvest them. But it's not an uncommon practice for a beekeeper to actually collect some of those bees for their own purposes and colonize their hives.
And they can actually move the hive.
They can. Somebody with the expertise and the willingness to do it and the need for honeybees, they can come over with equipment to houses. And that's what we normally recommend.
Well, and you make the point, we need them for pollination.
Right. Yeah, and in the right place, they're an asset.
Right.
But in the wrong place, like I said, by the time if they let it stay there for a while, the hive will grow and then becomes an issue of removing the the material behind it and reconstruct the house, it gets very expensive at that point.
That could be very bad.
Very bad.
In a home.
Right. Well, the challenge is also if for some reason they cannot get them out because they're already established that they had to poison them and the smell is there, when you can have several hundred pounds of basically live, they're dead.
Yeah.
And that creates a very complicated situation, to be honest.
Wow. So how long will this likely go on as a problem?
The swarms are a week or so long. So a hive is going to be looking for a place, searching in bushes or whatever, in a week's period until they decide to stay or not. So as soon as people are aware of them visiting, and they're pretty noticeable, you will see a cluster of them, not just one or two, moving around in a small mass. And that's when you start contacting us or a beekeeper to try to get a hold of them. And it's important they do it timely because they're going to be moving from place to place.
Right. So they could give you a call.
Absolutely. Call the extension office. We have friends, beekeepers, that are willing to do this kind of job. They would be glad to come over and collect them.
And the number is?
903-885-3443.
885-3443. 3443. If you should find yourself with some honeybee
right, as soon as possible, give us a call. We identify the beekeeper who's willing to do the work and send a reference.
Okay, good. Mario Villarino is our Hopkins County AgriLife Extension Agent. We've got other things to talk with Mario about, which we'll do again soon.
Thank you for having me.
Very good. I'm John Mark Dempsey. This is KSST.